Hi everyone, it's Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary. It is Saturday afternoon, about 4 p.m. So I am taking you through a weather vlog, and it starts about 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. So Friday, November 8th, around 4 p.m., I started taking some video footage of the incoming snowstorm, which raged all night. And then I went out this afternoon and got the aftermath of the snowstorm. So I'm going to take you with me. You're going to see some horses, some dogs, a lot of snow, and you're going to see some of the reptiles who stayed cozy and warm throughout the entire storm. This wasn't that bad of a storm. We did okay with it. We've had much worse. So for us, because we've experienced so many severe weather events here in Colorado, to include wildfires and severe snowstorms, that this one didn't seem that bad to us, but I'll take you through it. So this is what things look like on Friday afternoon, about 1600 hours or 4 p.m. This was the aftermath of the first small snowstorm that came in like Wednesday, Thursday, and it was gone by Friday. And then we were expecting the second storm to roll in Friday night into Saturday. So it hadn't really started yet. This snow was left over from the storm the previous few days. So we really weren't getting a lot of accumulation yet. Things weren't piling up. It was just starting to get very cold at this point. And I could see the clouds rolling in, and I could see that this second storm was coming. So this is a little bit after 1600 or after 4 p.m. And as you can see on those panels to the left, the snow is still just on the ground. We had maybe an inch or two at this point, but it's starting to snow. And this is just the precursor or the first little part of this second storm that rolled in overnight Friday. And it was accompanied by some high winds. So if you're looking at the amount of snow accumulation in this video, you'll see that that's going to change over the next 12 hours. So this is later Friday night into Saturday morning. This was probably about 2 a.m. Saturday morning, and you can see how much more snow we have. And the wind was blowing harder. And now you see that drifting on the left. Those are the same panels I walked by on Friday afternoon. And so now you can see how high the snow's drifted up. It covered our generator. It covered one of our propane tanks. It covered one of the dog shelters. And the dogs do have access to the house. They have access to the garage, which is the front half of one of our reptile buildings. So as I was assessing things Friday night, during the night, this was before we went out to feed horses and check on them for the night. There's this huge drift in front of the house, but at this point I noticed that there's a huge drift at the gate, which leads from our yard that contains our house and where our dogs are and our reptile buildings are out to the barn. And there was no way that we were going to be able to open that gate. So that's a concern because we have to get out to the barn. So I ended up just climbing the fence. The snow was wet and it wasn't very solid. So I couldn't just walk up on the snowdrift and climb over that way. I had to go and actually climb over a portion of the fence. Now this view is me taking film from the barn. I just left the horse barn and I'm walking back towards the house. So this is a couple of hours later. We have fed the horses. We have taken care of the horses. All of the horses had hay, had food, had water. We spent a couple of hours taking care of them, and now I'm walking back towards the house. And Jim was using the skid loader to clear that snowdrift from in front of the walk-through gate to our airlock. It's a double gate system because we have the rescue dogs inside and my own dogs inside, so we don't want, that was me slipping and almost falling on the ice. So we have this double gate system, and Jim cleared away the snow from the outside of the gate. So now we're able to open the gate out and we can just climb over that snowdrift to get in and out, and we don't have to climb the fence, which is how I initially got out to the barn. Once I got inside, I let some of the older dogs out to use the bathroom that weren't out while we were feeding horses. This is Keever. We're not sure how old he is. He's probably 12 to 14 years old, so he used the bathroom and, of course, wanted to come right back in. This is this building with the light on is the front half is for the dogs and the back half is for the reptiles and the leopard gecko. And then one of the snakes, a python regis, who was relinquished when their owner died. We don't know the sex of this snake or the age. It's a wild type python regis. This snake shed during the snowstorm, and I just filmed a few seconds of footage of the snake moving from this cooler area down to its very warm hide after shedding. So that was pretty cool. Hi everyone, it's Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary. Today is Saturday, November 9th, 2024, and I'm going to have a little bit of a weather or conditions vlog for you today. The reptiles, actually it's all just snakes and one leopard gecko, are safe and warm in their climate controlled environments inside. However, we're going to go outside where I have no control over the climate, and we're going to assess the aftermath of the little winter snowstorm we had during the night. So let's head out and see what's up. I'm narrating this after filming because I narrated part of it while I was walking around, but some things distracted me, so I just felt like it was easier to show you the footage and then be able to narrate it after. So this was when I first walked out, and I'm just getting an overall view of what things look in the daylight because I haven't seen this since the night before. I work nights, so I was up until about 7 in the morning. Then I went to bed. My husband goes to bed earlier than me, and then he gets up earlier than me, so he had already been out earlier in the day and assessed things and fed the horses. And so now I'm going out to assess what's happening. And Jim also checks on the reptiles when he first gets up in the morning too. So I'm going through that airlock, which now we can walk through so I don't have to climb over the fence. And Jim has done quite a bit of clearing the area with the skid loader and the shovel, so I appreciate that. The dogs, some of the dogs are happy to be out in the snow. Somebody asked me if they enjoyed playing in the snow. Some of them do, yes, but then some of them just want to stay inside while it's warm. So the really active dogs usually want to be outside. If I'm outside, they're watching me walk around. They're barking at me. They're running around in the snow. We have some older dogs that are inside without any interest in coming out in the cold and the snow. So I am literally just walking the property. That is one of our office buildings. That's our camper, one of our propane tanks. This is one of the horse pastures, and then one of the corrals that's up by the barn. You can see where Jim has plowed with the skid loader. Otherwise, the snow right here would be as tall as that drift you saw on the right side. And he plowed a path around so that we could access each horse pasture and all sides of the corrals that are up by the barn. And so that we could also get behind the camper and behind the house. There's a 4-acre pasture behind the house that I do think I filmed it. And I'll mention that when we get to it. But this is an arena that doubles as a training arena as well as a corral that some of the horses that mostly stay up at the barn can have access to. So this is my mom's horse, Callie. And you can see we're already getting meltage. So thankfully it didn't get super cold and it didn't stay super cold. It's about 2 in the afternoon on Saturday, and now it's above freezing. And it got above freezing fairly quickly in the morning. And so things started to melt, which makes the snow sort of slushy. It makes a lot of mud. And so we have to be careful. The night before we had to be careful because of ice, but now we have to be careful because of mud. So things really aren't looking too bad. And the plus side of it being above freezing is the horse water tanks didn't freeze. They actually didn't freeze during the storm. They got a little slushy on top, but now today they're all thawed out and the horses are able to drink without us breaking ice or installing additional tank heaters or anything like that. The tank heaters, if we install too many, it blows fuses. and we have to deal with fuses blowing and lights and heaters going out and constantly having to reset those. So we try to plug in a minimal amount of heaters. This pasture on the left is 14 acres, and the one behind the house there, behind the dog yard, is 4 acres. The dog yard itself is a half acre. So that fenced area where the dogs are and the houses and the one reptile building is about a half acre. And this pasture that this particular herd is in is about 14 acres. And then I'm walking to this pasture behind one of our offices, which really is just storage for right now, and then our camper. And this pasture that these two horses, Kiowa and Raina, are in is 4 acres, and they did okay. So I'm just walking out here to check on Kiowa and Raina, to check on the backside of the fence, and to check on the dogs and making sure basically that they can't climb over the fence. The snow sometimes does drift so high that they can just walk over the fence. And thankfully that didn't happen in this case. That's Kiowa right there. And you can see that Jim made a road back here between this pasture and the dogs so that we can drive and walk through here. This is Raina. Kiowa and Raina were transfers from Ruby Ranch Horse Rescue. That used to be a horse rescue here in Colorado, and they shut down, and we got some of their horses at our sanctuary. So we did get some drifting. This is a 6-foot fence, and the drift is about halfway up, so it's probably a 3-foot drift. Now this is our back airlock gate, and you can see that we didn't dig that out, and there is no way that we can open that. And that is exactly how our front airlock gate looked during the night, which is why I just climbed over the fence, and Jim climbed over the fence. We took care of the horses, and then we worried about digging that out because it was more important that we got to the horses quickly and assessed everything rather than worry about digging that out. So this is just continuing on around this is the edge of our property. So this fence that you see in front of me is the property boundary, and just past that is the road. That's our hay shed. That's the backside of the reptile building, hay shed, and that over there is our road. And at first we thought that someone had plowed a section of the road, but that's not the case. It looks like somebody with a 4-wheel drive truck just bulldozed their way through. And when I actually walk out there to look at it, it's clear that somebody just drove through that and it wasn't plowed. So Jim plows that later on, at least that section that's right in front of our house, because as of right now, we couldn't really get out of our driveway and onto the road. So you see there's barely any snow where I'm walking. That's where Jim has already plowed. And then this is the dog yard from a different view. That's the skid loader that we're very thankful to have. We've only had that for a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years. We haven't had that long, and that's been wonderful because we used to have to do all this digging by hand, or we would have to hire somebody and pay them to come dig us out or plow. So this is the front gate and the driveway that comes into the animal sanctuary, and I'm going to walk up here and assess what that looks like, what the road looks like, and just to get a feel for if we can get out or not. The snow's actually not very high right here. It doesn't seem very high. I step in it and it's maybe a foot, which I don't think is too bad. It didn't really drift right here. And that happens a lot in Colorado when we get high winds. So we might have areas of land that have no snow and then areas that have 3 or 4 feet of snow. And that's because the wind blows the snow around and causes it to drift in certain spots. It doesn't always fall just straight down. We like it when it all falls just straight down because then that means we don't have any wind. So I am just showing you how deep the snow is right here in this spot when I walk in it. The drifts, actually, if I step in a big drift, there were some that went up to my knees. So this is our road, and it doesn't look like anybody plowed. It looks like somebody just took a truck and sort of, maybe a truck with a plow on it, I don't know, but just drove through. So later on, and I think I got some footage of this, Jim takes the skid loader out and clears that because this is our driveway right here, and there's no way for us to safely drive out onto that road. So I'm standing in the middle of our street, of our road, and I'm just showing you how tall that drift is next to my leg. And then this is what it would look like if you were entering our property. So I'm trying to walk in the steps that I made when I left. So that's a little bit easier. And the gates didn't get snowed shut, so that's good. But we just got drifting near some of the structures and in the barnyard and some of the horse paddocks. I don't think I walked to the back of the horse barn for any video. I should have done that because I know we have a big drift in the back. Now I'm back in the dog yard, and we are going to go to the outbuilding, and we're going to check on the reptiles that are in there. So on the right is one of our propane tanks and our generator, and Jim has dusted some of the snow off that. That area on the right was completely buried last night, and our generator actually did not go off. So apparently it won't go off if it's buried in snow. So the front half of this building is designed for the dogs to use when they're out in the yard if they want to go inside. And I also use it for storage. So I have things stored in here, cages that need to be put together. We're redoing the floors inside the main building. So after the floors are all done, I'll put cages together and move new cages in. This is a storage area. And then this is the room. That's some enclosures I'm cleaning to sell. And then that's the dog's couch. So they have some place to lie down when they're in here. The water did not freeze in here in this front part of the building, so that's good. It tells me it didn't drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So now I've walked into the reptile building. That's the leopard gecko in the glass tank. And the overhead lights are on, and these rooms are heated by radiant heaters. And you can see the temperature is 74 Fahrenheit in that middle room. And then in this back room, I think I show you what the temperature is, and I think it's around 75. But I haven't turned on any of the enclosure heating and lighting yet because it gets too hot if I turn that on all day. So I usually turn that on in the afternoons. So I think, yeah, this room is 75. And this is, again, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. And so I'm going to turn all the lights on, and I will leave those on until the evening. When all of the lights are on in these rooms, it gets really, really warm. In the isolation room, it gets around 90, sometimes 98 degrees. And in these two main rooms, it does get into the 80s with all of the lamps on and the enclosure heating and lighting on. So that's why I don't leave that on all day long. It's usually about 6 hours a day that I leave that on. And there's overhead light and natural light in these rooms, so these rooms aren't dark. There's windows and things. So as I was checking on the animals, the Brettles pythons, many of them were awake and active and alert. It's between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, but this isn't unusual. And so I had to take some extra time to enjoy looking at the Brettles pythons. That is Mobius there on the top. And in the middle, this is Balin. And they love being up high in sky hides and in nets. And all of these Brettles that I'm showing you right now were produced by Andy Watson from Denver Lizard Ranch in Denver, Colorado. And they were all hatched on August 7th, 2023. So they're a little over a year old. This is Nala Say, who was so beautiful. I had to stop the video for a second and get some photos of her. Over here on the other side is Kazuda, who was also produced by Andy Watson, but he had 2 other homes before coming to live with us. And I'm told he's a male. The previous 2 owners that this snake had said he was male, but this Brettles is so large, he's in an 8x2x2 enclosure, that I wouldn't be surprised if he was missexed and that he's possibly a female. Just because most of my males are around 5.5 to 6.5 feet long. 6 feet long is about average. And even my females are around 6 to 6.5 feet long. This snake is 7.5 feet long. He's huge. So either he was really overfed or maybe it's a female. I still think the snake was overfed. But anyway, This brettle on the bottom is a 13-year-old striped brettles named Salazar. The striped ones I find are a lot more shy than the normals and the stonewashed. He really didn't want me intruding, so I'm leaving him alone. And now we're back out of the reptile area into the dogs area. And I'm getting ready to leave. And we're going to walk inside, I think, from this point. So they have a dog door there that was installed by John Knox, and I really appreciate him and appreciate that. He passed away recently, and I'm really sad because he helped us out a lot at our animal sanctuary. He did a lot of work for us. He did work for Habitat for Humanities. He installed our dog doors, and he did some of the interior work on that reptile room. So that was Emrys on the snowdrift. This is the yard in back of the house. Inara and Monroe and Violet are out here right now, and Violet's not supposed to be out there. So before I left to do this walkabout, I asked Jim to let Violet in. But now I see Jim out here on the skid loader plowing the driveway and the road. So he forgot about poor little Violet, and she's probably freaking out. So I don't spend too much more time filming outside at this point because I know I have to get inside and take care of Violet. So now I'm inside the front foyer, and you'll see that the floors look like there's 3 or 4 different floors. That's because we're ripping up the floors in here to install new floors. Now I'm walking into the back, into my office, where it's very warm and cozy. And I bet that the snakes in this room didn't even really know the difference. Maybe they could tell a difference in barometric pressure or something, atmospheric conditions other than heat and light, but their heating and lighting really didn't change. Violet is very happy that I let her in. She thought she was dying out in the backyard with the snow and the big dogs, and she was very thankful that I let her in. So these are just some of the snakes that I share my office with. My office has not always been in this room. It's in this room now because the floor in this room's done, and we're ripping up and moving things in that other room. But I like my office here, so I might end up leaving it. And then I take my snowy boots off. I actually had set the camera down and didn't realize it was filming. But this is a good way to mark the end of the video. I want to thank you guys very much for watching and for going on that walkabout with me. It's a little bit different video than I usually do, but I hope that you enjoyed it. It gave you a little bit of an outlook as to how we're arranged and set up here. And until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind and love your animals.